I tell myself every day, and I tell my Gen Z this every day, is I never know what I'm going to be doing at work. I have no real job. From doing tech to having to help people shop, to buying furniture, to getting the AC fixed, crawling under desks, setting up computers, testing things. I have no idea what my actual job is most days. My boss, when I ask him this question, he'll tell me it's like, well, you're the manager that runs the millions of dollars worth of tech that this country uses every day. But the reality is that my job is way more complicated than that. One of the main reasons why I got such a sharp review this year is because apparently I'm never doing my job. But my job involves a lot of things, including furniture removal, furniture purchasing, all kinds of things that you would think don't belong with a person who's supposed to be managing. But with that said, let's get into today's monologue. You ever notice how office hierarchies make absolutely no sense? Like the people who do the least amount of work have the biggest offices, the comfiest chairs, and somehow the power to make me their personal butler. I mean, really, why am I spending my day shopping on Amazon with an executive officer while my actual boss panics over me not answering emails fast enough? Middle managers strut around pretending they have authority, but the real power, it's the executive assistants, the tech department, the janitors, the people who actually keep this whole circus from burning to the ground. Today I was in rare form. I'd never been called to the executive's offices in order to do a lot of the things that I was doing. It was just not part of my job. When it comes to my level of authority at work, I manage an office space. That's about it. But when it comes to looking for people that can get things done, a lot of these things always fall into my lap. Moving things, getting things, acquiring things, fixing things. Tomorrow, I have to set up office space for 23 different office managers from all over the country that are going to be visiting. And somehow, I'm stuck doing this, just like I got stuck the last time the executives were coming into the valley, and I had to set up a hotel suite, like a conference room, for the executive people, the management of the entire corporation. And so I did that. I made sure I came in, set up early, left, and waited for everyone to leave before I came back in order to take it all down. That's not part of my job. I I would say that half my job currently is doing purchasing. But again, if you were to look at my job title, purchasing isn't in my job title. Everything about my job title is a technology worker. That's it. And I do everything including that. That feels like my day job, and I moonlight as something else. I sometimes I just don't understand why me. And with that said, let's get into our first talking point. Executives get luxury. Office makeovers, personal Amazon shoppers, me today, and ergonomic thrones, while regular employees fight over the one good office chair left in the break room. That is so true. My coworker that was helping me today set up offices at the executive building. He turned around and looked. I could see the face. The face of disgust was all over him. And just the expression was just so angry. We were setting up additional offices for more executives that got hired this week. And he was looking at me like, look at this MS. Look at the beauty of this area. Brand new chairs, brand new desks, brand new computers, high end computers. We actually had an executive this week take our standard computer and say, no, thank you. I want the $5,000 model. My boss just came back, handed me the computer, and he said, Millennial Steam, this computer isn't good enough. Also, the executive leadership decided that we're buying our computers too cheap. They want upgraded computers for everyone because they're getting complaints that the computers aren't nicer. And I was just like, I scratched my head and I thought, well, we're already spending $1,500 a pop on these, and I can order them 300 at a time. But you just do what people tell you to do. It doesn't have to make any sense. Like the furniture order I got this morning was for an ivory desk. And at first I thought it was for one of the new people that they hired because that's the way that the request came in. It's like, we need a desk for this for room for this particular room. And I thought, well, everyone else has been there for about, I think we're about to turn 2 months when I originally set it up. And I thought, well, everybody must be good, right? It must be the new offices that are getting this upgraded furniture. Nope, it was definitely the tippy top. He didn't like the furniture in his office. And so he decided to give it a makeover. In fact, when I was working at the university, and this is years ago, there's a professor that came in from an Ivy League school, took one look around the office that she was going to get, and they furnished her office as if it were an apartment with oak cabinets, a matching desk. When you walked into that office, it felt like you were walking into a luxurious apartment. Not a whole apartment, but definitely the living room with the desk and the cabinets and the over the top decor, rugs. I was like amazed because the other professors, the staff that works in the front, I mean, they hadn't gotten new computers in years. And these people can request $5,000 computers just because they can. The amount of waste, and again, getting back to my coworker's expression today, the look of disgust was because we haven't gotten raises in 3 years. And the amount of crap that we have to deal with is astronomical. This afternoon, my boss called me and he said, hey, where are you with replacing this computer for this person? And I'm like, you know very well that my office area is not part of that department. You should know this. But no, he pretended that it was our responsibility to know where upgrades were for the end users. Not my department. I manage all the tech. I'm not responsible for making certain that Susie Rotten Crotch has made an appointment with the people who provide day-to-day call center support. That's their, they do all of that work. My job, take care of the bigger picture. And I said that to him. He didn't like my answer and continued with the same line of questioning. When is this person going to get fixed? And I'm like, I don't fix things here. We've been through this. Look at the sign on the outside of this door. It doesn't say fixing department. It says management department on that door. All right, moving on to talking point number 2. Managers think they run the office, but the real power lies with the executive assistants and IT staff, the people who actually make things happen. Today, while I was working with the administrative assistant to the most powerful person in the corporation, I was very humble by the way that she looked. I looked at her and I said, how can you stand being around all of these people? And she said, well, I was in the military before and I just got used to being around high ranking officers. And I thought to myself, well, that's an interesting way to get training in order to become an assistant to corporate America's elite workforce. But it made me think as I was sitting on the floor bundling cables this afternoon at how little power I actually had. And they ring the bell, and Millennial Steam comes running for whatever they want. And they're always very sweet. Like, they've always treated me, the executives have treated me better than any management I've had since I started working there. And I was telling the administrative assistant, and she told me the same thing. We traded stories. She said to me, Millennial Steam, every time I come to work, I expect for it to be my last day. Every time I log into my computer, I think I'm not going to be here tomorrow. And I told her after the wicked review I got, I've been waiting for the axe to drop on the back of my neck since that day. I don't know why I'm still there. Based on my everything they said about my work ethic and my work quality and how crappy I am at my job, I didn't expect for them to keep that person. I mean, every day I look for work because I don't expect to be there long. It's just part of these corporate jobs is that sometimes you just don't stay long because they're looking for someone that's more loyal. And if there's one thing that I've shown since I started working there is I'm not a team player and I never will be. And that's just something that makes me stand out from every other single person I work with is you want something done, you ask Millennial Steam. And I got this from one of the officers about 3 weeks ago because these same people reached directly out to me while in a conference room because something wasn't working. They didn't call my boss or my boss's boss. They rang my number. We need you. And here I come running. Fix the problem, run back home. Only problem is someone in that room noticed, contacted my boss's boss, and asked, why is the janitor here? That's really what it comes down to. And I've told my coworkers that this is how I feel at work because I don't really have one thing that I focus on. Talking point number 3, the tech worker side hustle, personal assistant to the rich. Every time I walk into that building and I look at the amount of luxury that's there comparatively to my office, which is a worn down building that's probably been there for 40 plus years. I've seen this building where I currently work since I was in kindergarten because it was on our way to church. And I never thought I'd end up working inside there, especially not in my current job. In fact, I never expected to amount to anything. My current job is not like it's anything, but it's different. Somehow fixing Wi-Fi turns into helping an executive officer pick out peripherals and coordinate their snack preferences. Today, I had to go into the office. I stopped in this morning, but that executive was at too many meetings. Her schedule was very tight. And so I walked around, I fixed what I could. I told the administrative assistant that I had started the process of ordering new furniture for the executive. And then I reached out to this particular executive who I had been told earlier in the week needed new peripherals because she didn't like what was given to her. When you're at the top, you can dictate anything that you want. And so I had reached out to her several times through the messaging app, which she had ignored me. But again, these aren't people, these aren't, I would say that all of the people that work in those elite offices, they're all over 50 or 60. They're all old. And so I asked her just to send me a link to what she wanted and I would buy it for her and I'd bring it to her. But no, she wanted me to come sit down in her office while we scrolled through the website and she looked and looked for what she wanted. What she wanted cost $200 for one peripheral. I kept saying that amount of money doesn't matter at your level. And she kept saying, no, millennials, $200 is way too much for that. And I kept saying to her, well, just find something else. And so we kept scrolling and scrolling, and she kept coming back to the exact same product that she wanted. It looked like, had the functionality of what she wanted, and looked just like the one that she had at home. But she wouldn't buy it. And she finally, after looking for about, I'm going to say 45 minutes solid, we finally gave up and she said, Millennial Stam, I want you to buy me this accessory, but I'm going to hold off on buying that one because I'm still not sure if I want to spend $200 on it. And I said to her, it's not your money. And she just looked at me like, well, I'm always trying to save money for the corporation. You take one look around in that office and you look at the other offices and you think, does she really say that? Because I'm seeing office space here that costs $50,000 more a month just to rent this space. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, comparatively to the corporate office in the other state, the main one, I was told today that that one's really run down. This one's brand spanking new. Beautiful views, pretty people, amenities. They even have beer in their break room. I was getting ready to leave the office this afternoon, and I looked at the office manager and I said, "No one's touched these high end beers. These are all beers that a person like me doesn't buy because they're too expensive." And she just looked at me like, "Well, we've replenished them a couple times." And I'm like, "You have an office that has free beer. That's amazing." I've never seen that before. But it is what it is. The real job description for people who work in tech support is tech support, therapist, personal shopper, and corporate gesture. Do you know why corporate gesture? Because you have to smile. You have to pretend that you're not drowning in debt when you leave work. And when I was talking to the admin and I mentioned to her that we had that no one in the tech department had gotten a raise in many years, she said, "Why don't you just ask?" And I just laughed. It's like that's just part of the show. Asking for money at work is asking to be fired. My coworker knows it. I know it. He actually qualified for the 30-cent increase in pay this year. I did not. Is he um is he disgruntled about getting such a small raise? 30 cents, 50 cents? You're talking about a job that requires true responsibility. We all work independently. I don't have a boss on site. My boss works somewhere else. I see him every few months, or I see him when it's time for millennial steam to be disciplined. And that's the only time I see him. Other than that, I get orders that come through short, very pointed messages my way. And that's it. My boss stopped talking to me the day he gave me my review and the day that he fired the senior manager because the senior manager was not managing me according to him. He fired the senior manager and made himself my manager, my personal manager, which is really strange because I've always worked for the senior manager, but also every senior manager that I've had for nearly 4 years doesn't work at Evil Corp anymore. Every year there's a senior manager change because it's a tough position. The area that I work in has such high turnover that I'm the only person that's left there after this many years. And for one simple reason, true desperation. I can't find anything better. And no matter how many times people tell me to get a different job, and that's been my doctor, coworkers, uh, acquaintances, even the girls at the salon have asked me, "Millennial Steam, when are you going to get a different job?" And I'm like, where am I going to go to get a job that pays this much money? There's nothing like this on Indeed. I got put into a job and then got promoted, and I've just been stuck spinning my wheels ever since then. As for personal shopper, this isn't my first rodeo with personal shopping with people. In fact, I've done this, I would say, at least 10 times where a person can't decide. Normally, they're a completely remote worker and will log on to the purchasing application that we use at the corporation, and I'll share my screen and we'll scroll through different things, colors, shapes, whatever they want. If their rank is high enough, my boss gives them a blank check. It doesn't matter what it costs. If you are up there with the executives, it doesn't matter. I'll spend $300 and buy you a mouse if you want. It all depends on who you are. But if you're a low level person, try getting a pencil. It doesn't work. And that's just the way it's always been. And I'm not certain exactly why it's that way. Just that's the way it's always been since I worked there. Ever since I took over purchasing from my original senior manager, that's the way that I shop. I shop for people. My Amazon bill for February is reaching $10,000. That's how much I shop for little junk all day long. Because every piece of junk that comes into Evil Corp has to be bought by me and then stamped by my boss. That's just the way it is. But to conclude this video, I never expected to get that call this morning. It was really strange. And every time I updated my boss on a new task that I was doing for the elites, my boss kind of questions like, why are they asking you to do this? And I just didn't reply. There was no good answer to that question. The last thing I did is I walked out of the little old lady's office this afternoon, and she smiled and she was disappointed that we didn't find something that she liked. But often enough, my shopping excursions with the elites end with them not being able to make a decision or just deciding that they want to keep what they have. Anyhow, that was the story of today at work. I hope you guys enjoyed it and that you have a wonderful day.